All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. This is your host, Spencer, joined as always by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Man, I'm thriving. Thanksgiving is a good time for me. We got Christmas lights put up for the first time in my life, and I wasn't the one who did it. So that happened today. It's been a good day. How are you?
We paid somebody to do it once, and that was the year that Samantha was pregnant with our baby girl. So that would have been 2 Christmases ago. We had just moved into our new house, so I didn't have the setup figured out yet. I almost hate to admit this. I was not the person to set the lights up. It was always her. Was not comfortable getting on the roof. That has since changed. I'm the one that gets up there now. It's good. It's good. We're good to go. We get up there and get it knocked out. We put ours up a couple weeks ago now. Have not turned it on intentionally. It was on the first couple hours because the timer was all wonky. But it was nice to pay somebody the first time. I was like, hey, can you do this for me? Like, yeah, sure, I have to do it. I was like, can you like just leave them with me and like let me buy them from you and don't come back? They were like, it's not really what we do. But they were also new into doing Christmas lights. They're a newer company. It's like, yeah, but I typically wouldn't ask you to do it. But anyways, we're good to go. Ours are up. We make sure that we had them up. We took advantage a couple weeks ago when it was a warm Saturday afternoon. We actually had a lot of stuff open. But didn't want to have to wait until we found time after we got back from being in Dallas for Thanksgiving to do it. So they're up. They're on the house now. No other Christmas decorations are up. But that's where we're at. I see that the recording timer is quite a bit delayed. I hope that's not actually accurate because we've been going for a little bit longer than what the recording says, but we'll make do if there's a little gap in the intro. But we have Oklahoma State recap to wrap up. We have West Virginia preview, final game of the regular season for 2024. How can it already be over? The battle for John Denver or Deutschendorf, his soul. Y'all know that he was a Red Raider first, foremost.
His soul?
Yeah, battle for John Denver's soul.
Wow.
That's a thing, right? That's what they say. I don't know.
I don't know if that's what they say.
Battle for John Denver there. And I have to point out that when he was singing about West Virginia, he was in fact singing about Western Virginia, not the state of West Virginia. So we've got that. Basketball, Texas Tech men's basketball. We mentioned that we would come back to the games that were played last week, Thursday and Friday. Give you an update on that and look ahead. There's one game this week. It'll be Friday night. I don't know how deeply we want to get into this, Michael, but technically, Texas Tech is still mathematically included in the chase for the conference championship appearance. We can talk about Texas Tech needing a total of 8 different outcomes for that to happen. We got those lined out for you. I don't have the exact odds, but I did put it together in like a parlay builder. If you were to bet $20 on it, like it would pay out $36,000. I mean, if you got $20 laying around and you have a legal access to do so, and that's something that you do, maybe that kind of juice get your blood flowing. I don't know. We'll preview the game, obviously, that Texas Tech has. We'll look around the rest of the league because every game matters for Texas Tech. Then we'll look at the current playoff bracket projection, if that's something you want to talk about, look at. And then basketball, we got so much to do. So let's jump in. We'll talk football. We'll actually start with the pitch. Red Raider soccer team played in their tournament, NCAA tournament this past weekend Friday, the week before, we mentioned they hosted round one, the round of 64, took down LSU 2-1, and then had the tough task of going to Durham, take on Duke, overall number 1 seed, and lost, unfortunately, that game 3-0.
Yeah, the Red Raiders put up a fight as long as they could. Duke was very aggressive, even more aggressive than I thought they would be. They came into the game. I think they had 60 something goals on the season. Tech had 42, but they ended up, in the first half, Duke had 8 shots, 11 shots in the second half. Of those 19 shots, 12 were on goal, so they were good shots. So very aggressive on the offensive side, but Texas Tech just couldn't get the ball over midfield. Duke was just not having it. They weren't letting them do anything offensively. So Tech only had 5 shots total, and only one of them was on goal. So they only had one decent shot. Faith Nguyen did the best she could. She had 9 saves on the day, but 3 of them slipped by. And that's bound to happen when the defense just can't slow this offense down at all on that side. So Maggie, let's see what Maggie Graham. She had 2 goals. They were both excellent. I should have mentioned her last week. She had 12 coming into this game. Her and another teammate had 12. They were tied. But then Graham had 2 more and now has 14 on the year, which puts her up in the top in the country. I think there's, several players with 18, 17, 16, so she's in that top 20, 25 range on goals this year. So I think, if there's any consolation, it's a really good team to lose to, because there's a chance this team could go all the way. They are the unanimous favorite, as you mentioned already. And they went on, and I think I misunderstood how this all worked. So Duke hosted all the games on that weekend. And so, UT and Michigan State were there. Duke and Texas Tech were there. Michigan State won. And so they went on to play Duke on Sunday, and Duke won 2-0 versus the Spartans. And so they will face Virginia Tech Saturday in the quarterfinals and just get closer and closer to possibly winning a championship. So if there's any consolation at all, Texas Tech may have just lost to the future national champion. We'll see. But I know it was a disappointing season for the Red Raiders, because you never want to lose, or you never want to end your season on a loss, no matter what. But I don't view it as a fan as a disappointing season. I think this team really rallied, especially with some very key injuries very early in the season. And, new goalkeeper, lots of injuries throughout the season, I think, as well, and some adversity in the Big 12 play, especially there towards the end. So I think it was a great year. Looking forward to seeing what they can put together next year. But unfortunately, that is the end of the 23 Personnel Quick Soccer Update. And as always, please follow Seeing Scarlet for any and all information on Texas Tech athletics, particularly women's sports.
They do a fantastic job getting everybody up to speed on that. All right, football. Let's go to Stillwater, Oklahoma State. A couple things, Michael. I want to air this out now. You remember seeing that post-game graphic that the Texas Tech athletic department put out?
With the copier?
The copier and the 8 L's in Stillwater. Let me just say, I was not a fan of any of that.
Well, what does that even... We talked about this offline after it came out. Are the 8 L's... Is that how many Tech has in this entire series? Or no, Oklahoma State has in the entire series? I mean, I don't even know where that came from. Why were there so many L's in the copier? Because Oklahoma State has owned Texas Tech since 2008.
my understanding is that they dropped to their 8th loss of the season, but Texas Tech has only one of those 8, so it's not like you had a lot to do with the other 7 or any to do with the other 7. So piling on there, it's like it's not the burn you think it is. Hopefully,
maybe Tech won by 8.
Maybe. You point out the series, the head-to-head series. I think it's now tied back. I think it's like 24 games apiece. So it's not like that has to do with it. And then the copier, it's like I understand that's like a long-running joke with Oklahoma State. Some years that's a lot more egregious. Like there's something that just crops up, or just that discussion comes up. Maybe I missed it. I don't remember seeing much, if any, talk about Xerox State or whatever this year. And maybe it's because they just weren't talked about at all because they were 3-7 at the time you played them. So like the copier thing is like, well, yeah, I understand like there's that gripe or that jab Texas Tech likes to take at Oklahoma State, but I don't know what to do with my hands. It felt like they mashed a few things up that had really nothing to do with this game because we won it. It's like you could have done much better with like a screen grab of the high five between Taj Brooks and Jalen Conner, like taking care of business and high five or something. I don't know, something much more clever than a photocopy machine and 8 L's and the name Stillwater. Like I don't know. I didn't like it. Just call me old. I thought that was stupid.
I think you saved that type of tweet for, a couple of 7 or 8 win teams with Big 12 title hopes on the line. I mean, a really fiery game.
Yeah, that, if it was an upset, maybe?
lot of both teams. Yeah, both teams have a lot to play for, and it is an upset to go to Stillwater and win, whether we want to admit it or not. That part was an upset, even, and we saw it. Even on a 3-win team, it almost didn't happen. So,
you were still favored.
I could take some. Yeah. No, you were expected to win. You should have won, but we've been fans long enough to know that that's not always how it goes. So, it was still just kind of. It felt very forced. I think, like I said, if both teams were 9-win teams or something, and they're heading into the end of the year, and this has got all sorts of implications, maybe even go all out, talk some trash, because the fans would have been talking trash, like you said, all week. This just kind of came out of nowhere because most of the fans, usually there's a little bit of vitriol, or quite a bit actually, with Oklahoma State via social media during game weeks, but I think we both kind of stood down a little bit this week. We knew they were hurting, and why pile on? Let's play some football and see what happens.
Yeah. Interesting. We talked about it. I guess I didn't realize this so much in the moment. Another game where maybe Texas Tech was very, very fortunate to come out with a win. If you look at the did we really get beat that bad graph from the net success rates from week 13, another win for Texas Tech where you were net negative on the success rate versus your opponent. So much so that Bill Connolly had the lowest post-game win expectancy in a week. Texas Tech had the lowest post-game win expectancy. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to pretend to tell you what all goes into that. But the lowest post-game win expectancy in a win, Texas Tech over Oklahoma State at 3.4%. And I remember the upset win over Texas a few years ago, I think was at like a 5%. So this is even more of a, I mean, barely, but it's more of a upset, if you will, which doesn't feel exactly how that game played out. But then maybe it does, because it took your offense playing maybe its best game of the season. It took a defensive turnover score, a defensive turnover to end the game. It took a special teams block of an extra point, miss of a field goal, and a return of an onside kick. Like all these things stacked up, you're like, maybe Oklahoma State just blew this game. Which is weird to say because Texas Tech never trailed. It was tied. But like all these things stack up, like maybe Oklahoma State should have won this game. Net success rate says that's probably the case. Post game win expectancy says that's probably the case. It's like, I don't know, maybe we pump the brakes on like how great this game was. Offense was good, defense was bad, and maybe that's just the nail in the coffin, or another nail in the coffin for Tim DeRuyter. I don't know. Had to do it without some key pieces up front. Did lose DeBraylon Carroll during the game, and Quincy Ledet up front, and Harvey Dyson did not play this week. Excuse me. All three of those defenders are listed as questionable coming into this week versus West Virginia. And then Dre McRae back on this list for wrist injury, and makes him questionable. Bryce Ramirez will not make this final game. I assume his final game, which is very unfortunate for him to end his rendered career on the injured list. Reese Burkhart is on this list. Javian Wilcox is questionable. As is Micah Hudson, who we didn't see this week. We kind of expected that maybe if he was ready to go, he would have been back there returning kicks. Wasn't available. So, Taj, let's get to the FPI. Let's look ahead. FPI has this game a little bit more in favor of Texas Tech after the victory this weekend. Combination of all the things, but now it's a 57.9% in favor of Texas Tech as opposed to 54.8%. Maybe this has to do with with West Virginia winning and taking that desperation factor out of it. Maybe it's their defense. Their defense is bad. As bad as we want to talk about Texas Tech's defense, it's bad. It's worse. They actually fired their defensive coordinator about a month ago. They are on an interim DC, elevated from their current staff. So it's not like they hired in a coordinator off the streets like Nebraska did when they hired in Holgerson, which was kind of hilarious. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Taj Brooks had like 198 all-purpose yards, but added 133 yards on the ground. So his lead over Hanspard continues to grow. There was that play, Michael, that had it been for Texas Tech, where Oklahoma State snapped it, fumbled it, lost a ton of yards, and I can't remember who ended up falling on it and recovering it. I believe it was a quarterback, Smith. You made the joke in the middle of a game that like maybe that's something like Taj Brooks is like, you guys get that. I'm not going to lose that many yards.
Yeah.
Because at that point in the game, it would have been maybe enough that he would have lost the record. Anyways, finished the game 133 positive there. 3 touchdowns. So 263 carries on the year, 1,317 yards, 5 yards per carry, and 14 touchdowns, including one where he high-fives a lead blocker at about the 5-yard line, which is just going to be something that's going to be like it's going to be a meme. Just a highlight to roll for many, many years, especially considering that was like one of his longest runs of the year, coming on a 4th and 1. And like, he's not a fast guy, but he could have scored from almost anywhere on the field with how much space he had. So I had Texas Tech winning this one 31-17. Quite a bit more points were scored. I mean, that was 48. The game ended up hitting 90 or 104.
Yeah. We were both way off on the point total.
Yeah, Texas Tech won, what was it, 56-48. So, 104. Michael had a little bit higher scoring for Texas Tech, 38 to Oklahoma State's 13. I'm not going to pull up the post-game box score. You didn't do well on the ground, but we knew Ollie Gordon was good. He was still, Doak Walker Award winner from last year. They hadn't been able to figure out a lot of run blocking for him. They were a little bit successful through the year, but just enough to keep that game within reach for far too long. But I'm sure Oklahoma State fans are just chopping it up to like just another game that got away from them. But man, they probably should have won that one. So with that, you get the you're moving on, get the 6-day window announced. Kickoff for this weekend versus West Virginia, 11 a.m. on FS1, high of 59, partly cloudy. No rain, 11 mile per hour wind. Be a beautiful fall day that I'm sure 24, 30,000 people will see in person. I hate the on-campus game for Texas Tech this weekend, or schools like this that have a very large fan base not from their area and they are remote to their alumni base. But I do think, I don't know. I say that, but I also didn't like playing Baylor in Dallas on this weekend either. So I guess I just don't like it either way.
There's no pleasing you.
No, I'm just a pessimist all the way around. Coming up to face the Red Raiders are the Mountaineers of West Virginia. This season they are 6-5, led by former Texas Tech offensive coordinator Neil Brown. In his 6th season there, 37-34, 25-27 in Big 12 play. May have saved his job for yet another season, winning this past weekend. They have wins over UAlbany, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Arizona, Cincinnati, and Central Florida, with losses to Penn State, not looking too bad, Pitt, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Baylor. So there's nobody on that losses list that makes you think, man, they're not very good. They've had a tough schedule. They've done about as good as you could have expected. West Virginia for this series leads at 7-6. Matt Wells did a lot to close that gap. He owned them. I think he was 3-0 versus West Virginia. Texas Tech is 4-1 in the last 5, but Texas Tech lost the last one there in 2023. So you had 4 straight. They are they're so different than Texas Tech or even historical West Virginia teams in the past few years. Penalties, they're a much more disciplined team than Texas Tech. About half as many penalties on the year. Texas Tech has 88. West Virginia has 45. They are penalized for 31.5 yards per game. Texas Tech at 68.5. So West Virginia is second in the Big 12, whereas Texas Tech is last in yards per game. And then the total number of penalties, Texas Tech has the most penalized team, and West Virginia is tied for the least penalized team. Special teams, both teams are perfect on extra points, and Texas Tech has missed 2 field goals, second in the Big 12 in that percentage. West Virginia has missed 1, but they've attempted 8 fewer. They are 11 of 12. Texas Tech is 18 of 20. Good for first and second in the Big 12 there. They are a very aggressive 4th down team, probably because they have very short 4th downs to attempt, but they have attempted the most 4th downs in the Big 12 at 36. Baylor is second at 31. Texas Tech is third at 27. I'm trying to understand what you said. West Virginia offense has been more successful than Texas Tech on 4th down, but the percentage does not say that.
No, I think I screwed something up there. I think that percentage is
probably
wrong.
Going to be like 64%.
Yeah,
they are 23 of 36.
Yeah, 64. 64.
Good for 6th in the Big 12. Sorry, I was doing mental math there, and I was like, wait a minute. And Texas Tech is 14 of 27, which is just over 50%, 52%. So that's 10th in the Big 12. Offensively, they are led offensive coordinator Chad Scott. Also their running backs coach. He has been their co-OC and or run game coordinator since he joined their staff in 2019. He, as well as Neil Brown, and I think Matt Moore, unless this is a different Matt Moore, have all been on the Texas Tech staff previously. But Chad Scott was a running backs coach here under Neil Brown, followed him. I was at, I don't mean fault. Like I think he was at like Bowling Green. He was at Kentucky. and is now with West Virginia. We talked about how different they are from Texas Tech. They have 458 rushing attempts on this season to 168 receptions. Or 314 pass attempts. So that's probably a better comparison to look at. I was comparing rush attempts to receptions, and that was like a 3-1, but that's also counting in incompletions there. But 4.5 to 3, however you want to reduce that fraction down. Rush to pass. They are much more rush heavy than pass. When they do drop back to pass, Michael, they are very susceptible to the sack. They are 10th in the Big 12 in sacks allowed at 23 on 314 pass attempts, which is my quick math says 13.5% sack rate. Texas Tech has given up 24 sacks, so one more sack than West Virginia, but they have attempted 170 more pass attempts, 484 in the season, which drops that sack rate down to just under 5%. So almost 3 times as more likely to sack the quarterback when West Virginia drops back than you are to sack Texas Tech quarterbacks. A lot of that does have to do with them running the ball, and with Garrett Green under center, he is also a heck of a rusher. He is actually their second leading rusher on the team. But through the year, on the season, he's 131 of 236, completing 55.5% of his passes for 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. On the ground, he has 116 attempts, so almost dead even there on rushing attempts and completions. But 116 rushing attempts for 649 yards, which is second in the team in yardage. These are net yards. So he may actually be first in the team in rushing yards gained if you take out sacks, and 5 more touchdowns. So he's got 17 touchdowns to his name. The other guys carrying the rock, 2 running backs, the 3 of them combined for almost identical numbers. But first up is running back Jaheim White, 5'7", 195 sophomores, 128 carries, 693 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He adds in 13 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. And then a guy that we're all familiar with, we've seen around the West Virginia program for a few years, C.J. Donaldson, the junior there, 6'2", 238, 132 carries. So of the 3, he's got the most carries, but he's third on total yards, but not by much, 621 yards, 9 touchdowns. Not the receiver as Jaheim White, although there's only 8 catches that separate them, 5 catches for 20 yards. So the top 3 rushers, Jaheim White, Garrett Green, and C.J. Donaldson, combined for 376 carries of their 458. Almost 2,000 yards between the 3 of them, 5.2 yards per carry, and 20 rushing touchdowns. It's the bulk of their offense. When it gets in the air, their leading receiver has 36 catches on the year for 535 yards. Hudson Clement, 6'1", 198 sophomore, just under 15 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. Traylon Ray, 28 catches, 426, and 4 touchdowns. And then tight end Cole Taylor, big dude, 6'7", 250, 38 catches. So he's got the most on the team, but is third in yards, 396, and 3 more touchdowns. They are only putting up 195 passing yards per game at 7.4 yards per attempt, so it's not like a big play through the air offense. And just under 200 yards on the ground per game at 4.7 yards per carry, converting 41% of their third down, 64 of their fourth downs, which we know win over. They're scoring 30 points per game and converting, I can't see that on the, there it is, hold on. 85.5% of their red zone percentage, or their red zone trips, are ending in points, which is second in the Big 12. Defensively, Texas Tech is giving it 309 yards through the air, which we know has been a problem, at 8.2 yards per attempt. Quite a bit better on the ground, 147 yards per game at 4.5 yards per carry, keeping teams at 35% of third down conversion, 61 on fourth down, giving up 36 points per game, and allowing a lot of red zone trips and converting into points, 90%, which is 13th in the Big 12. Defensively, Michael, here's where things fall apart for the Mountaineers and why they are 6-5 and not 10-1, 9-2, 8-3, whatever it want to be. Their current defensive coordinator, Jeff Kuntz, inside linebacker, was elevated to defensive coordinator on October 29th of this year. He's also their special teams coordinator, and he's been in that capacity, special teams coordinator, inside linebackers coach since he was hired in 2020. Their previous defensive coordinator, Jordan Leslie, served as the DC the entire time he was on the staff there at West Virginia, hired at the same time in 2020, and was fired almost a month ago at this point. In the 8 games this season before he was terminated, West Virginia was 4-4. They were noted to struggle mightily in pass defense. They were 113th in the FBS, allowing 261 yards per game. Texas Tech is allowing 309. I want to point that out. And then going into the game against Arizona, West Virginia's pass defense ranked last in the FBS according to Pro Football Focus. They were 14th in the 16-team Big 12, allowing 28.4 points per game. So since they made the change, they have gone 2-1 with wins versus Cincinnati and UCF, and then dropping Baylor there in between the two. They beat Cincinnati 31-24, lost to Baylor 49-35, and then beat the Knights 31-21. Through those 3 games, their pass defense gave up 67% completion, just under 800 yards. That's 260 yards per game, which is on their season average. So that didn't really change. 8.4 yards per attempt. That's gone up. No, sorry. That's come down from their season average. They're averaging for the season 9 yards per attempt, but the last 3 games it's been about 8.5, 8.4 yards per attempt. 5 touchdowns through the year, but only 1 interception. I think they have 4 interceptions on the season. Yeah, there's 4 interceptions on the season. They do not turn the ball over. They do not turn the offense over. On the ground through those 3 games, they faced 111 carries, giving up 172 yards per game, 4.65. I had to do a lot of rounding to get there. 4.65, 4.7 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns. The rushing defense is not that great either, but they were pointing out how bad they were through the air.
So tell me this: is this a case for or against firing your coach in October?
It makes no sense to fire your coach midseason.
Thank you.
I mean, like as much as like I would say, like maybe Texas Tech should move on from Ted Reuter, it doesn't give you any benefit to fire him in October versus the first week of December.
Right. I mean, if you're going to fire somebody like that, I understand the Wells thing. That was a kind of a different animal. Wallerstedt, obviously, there was off the field issues going on there. Kaufman was kind of strange. I'm surprised that Leach pulled the trigger on Kaufman, but it's just not something we've seen very often here at Texas Tech, and it's just what
I was going to say. Kaufman was under Tuberville. It was his last DC.
Oh, who am I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of
Sentencich that he fired after that Oklahoma State game.
Whoever Ruffin McNeil.
Yeah, that was 2007
or in 2007. Yeah,
Lyle Sentencich.
Not bad.
Left him in Stillwater. Although
pretty much.
Michael Crabtree dropped the game-winning touchdown, but let's fire the defense coordinator.
Yeah, let's not. We don't have to dwell on that.
So yeah, I mean, like unless you know somebody on staff is like ready to go, like former DC's got everything dialed up, and like you obviously like made a mistake, and like this guy should have been the DC. I don't know if it makes that much, especially if you're still in the hunt. Like West Virginia had been in the hunt for bowl eligibility. Had they gotten to 7 losses through like 9 games, like all right, we got three to go. There's no bowl game left. Go ahead and fire the DC. We'll try somebody else out and get a jump on that. But it's not like you're running interviews or taking a bunch of applications and going through that hiring process mid-season. So I don't As a unit, the West Virginia defense has allowed the third highest completion percentage in the Big 12 at just over 63%. Last in yards per attempt on the season, not just since the coaching change. I did say that that's improved about half a yard per attempt through the DC change. They've given up the third most passing yards despite facing the fourth least attempts. And really all that boils down to is they give up a ton per attempt. They get beat deep, or they give up a ton through bad tackles, or however it works out for them. It's bad all the way around. They are last in the Big 12 in defensive efficiency. Texas Tech is 15th, but that's just a combination of attempts faced, yards per attempt, touchdowns versus your takeaways and passes defended. They have 59 tackles for loss in the season, which feels like a lot, and 20 sacks. They are led in both of those categories by defensive lineman TJ Jackson. He has 13 TFLs to his name and 6.5 sacks. As a unit, they have only 4 interceptions to 26 pass breakups. You would think some of those would go their way, but just hasn't been the case. And then 30 quarterback hurries. When Texas Tech has the ball, they are throwing it for 293 yards per game at 7 yards per attempt. West Virginia defense is giving up 261, 9 yards per attempt. We've been over that. Texas Tech is running it for 158 yards per game at 4.3 yards per carry. West Virginia rush defense. Maybe it's a combination of who they've faced in the last 3 games. They've had a decent rushing attack lineup against them. For the season, they've given up 135 yards per game at 3.9 yards per carry, but of the last 3 games, they said they've given up 172 yards per game at 4.7 yards per carry. They are allowing teams to convert 46% of third downs, which is a ton, holding teams to just 29 points per game, and about middle of the road in terms of red zone scoring percentage at 83 and a third, whereas Texas Tech is 92%, which is first in the Big 12. The CFB graphs, CFB graphs has this as a Texas Tech win probability at 58% to 42 for West Virginia, but with a very slim point margin. Texas Tech 34, West Virginia 31.5. So 2.5, 3 points. And it really will just depend on which defense plays better. West Virginia has done poorly at home this season, which is strange to be better on the road than at home. So that actually works in their favor this weekend. They will not be facing a typically rowdy Lubbock environment with the where it falls in the calendar this season. Texas Tech is a slim favorite here, according to West Virginia. According to Vegas, 3.5 points, over under of 64.5. Michael, I'll shut up for a few seconds, let you get your thoughts in. How do you see this game playing out? And give us your prediction.
I think it's. I see a lot of callbacks to last week. Not the exact same, but Oklahoma State was one of the least. I think they're the second least penalized team in the Big 12. West Virginia's first. Oklahoma State's defense was suspect. Seeing the same thing against West Virginia. Not too worried about their offense, but Oklahoma State was able to throw something together with theirs, and just kind of looking through these scores, that it's been up and down for the Mountaineers all year. They've scored 34 points, 32, 38, and then they went to Ames and scored 16, hosted Kansas State, scored 18. Put up 35 against Baylor, but that wasn't enough because they allowed 49, 31 against Cincinnati, 31 against UCF. So that's kind of where I'm going to land. Is I think that we're going to see a hopefully not quite as amped version of what we saw last week, but I think we're going to see 2 defenses that are going to struggle. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to put, because because I'm a Red Raider, I'm just going to put Texas Tech coming out on top. I almost wanted to pick the same score as last week, but that Oklahoma State ended up with. But I'm going to go slightly lower, but not by much. I'm going to go Texas Tech winning this 42-35, something like that, because it shouldn't be that high. It shouldn't be that high scoring, but man, you just look at all the numbers and you see what happened last week, and this is a Mountaineer team that can put points on the board. They don't do it every single game, but they sure can. And they can do it against teams that Tech was able to. Tech scored 44 against Cincinnati, I think. Or I can't remember what all they did, but Tech was able to score against Arizona and Cincinnati, and West Virginia put up 31 against both those teams. So who's to say they're not going to put up 35 on Texas Tech? I mean, seems like a likely scenario.
I was literally about to type in Texas Tech 41, as you said, Texas Tech 42. I'm going a little bit wider margin. I'm going to take Texas Tech to win here by 10. And maybe you get to 10 late. It's more of a backdoor cover type situation, but 41-31 Red Raiders. I don't think West Virginia has the offense to keep pace if you were to get into a shootout type of game. Maybe they're more explosive on the ground there late, as our defense has shown its propensity to kind of fade. And maybe that's where they get to the 31. I don't know. I do think this is a favorable matchup for Texas Tech. Ultimately, I don't love facing such a run-heavy team. What gives me some confidence is just how poor their pass defense is. Especially coming off of the game last week. If there's anything that you could look to like stack success and repeat performances, you've not really had similar cracks to face week to week. Like it was been like one defense is really good at this, but bad against this, and the next week it was kind of flipped. So you never got like 2 weeks in a row where they had a bad pass defense or a bad rush defense or whatever. Not that Oklahoma State was necessarily specifically poor through the air, but Barry Morton had a fantastic game through the air. Going into a game against a bad pass defense, I think that sets up very well for Texas Tech to have a lot of success at home. So, oh no, Hunter Dickinson got ejected for kicking somebody. What a douche. So yeah, both of us preseason predicted this as a win. We are in line with the Texas Tech results because we've been wrong 4 times, but yet right 7 times. So we are 7-4. Texas Tech is no. Hold on.
We're 6-5. We were wrong 5 times.
Wrong 5 times. Texas Tech is 7-4. They're doing better than we are. But I'll take that if Texas Tech wins this weekend and gets to 8-4. That would be fan-freaking-tastic. We've talked about how that hasn't happened in far too many years. And yeah, you can say, oh, but all these things stacked up, like you had to have all this. Yeah, whatever. You'll take it and run with it. You look at the trajectory. Winning 8 games, even if they're close or ugly, or maybe you shouldn't have won them, still better than losing those games. And I think you can still take from that and learn from it and grow from it, while also enjoying the benefits of a win. Sue me. I'm going to try to take the positive here and say, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be at 7-4 and still mathematically in the hunt for the Big 12 title game appearance. I don't think you would be favored at all if you were to make that game. But I mean, when Joey McGuire has said that the goal is to compete for Big 12 titles, it has not been pretty this season, but you are still in a position to play for a Big 12 title. So It's kind of delivering on that. Maybe a little early. And like, you're not just like jumping right into it. Like, okay, 7-5, 7-5, 10-2, here we go. 8-4. And you're like, all right, we probably need a lot of help to get there. And we didn't get all the help. So, but maybe next year it builds to a 10-2 type season. I don't know. Let's look around the rest of the Big 12. Talk about what it would take for Texas Tech to make the Big 12 title game appearance. It would take a heroic weekend of upsets and an 8-0 performance across. Like you need everybody to perform just the right way to get in. That kicks off Friday morning. Oklahoma State traveling to Colorado as a 16.5-point dog on the road to the Buffaloes. Although they may be reeling, this may be the time to catch the Colorados. Who knows? Who knows where their state is at? Not like the actual state of the geography state, but mental state. I mean, who knows how upset they are that Travis Hunter was snubbed from the Jim Thorpe Award watch list. Apparently, that's making a lot of rounds today. If your goal is the Heisman, though, you really worried about the Jim Thorpe? Sorry.
Yeah, that may be the thought process there.
Texas Tech would need Oklahoma State here to win, which we'll get to a little bit better. 17 points is a lot. Oklahoma State does have some fight. Colorado is down. I am going to say Oklahoma State keeps it closer than 17, but maybe not win this one.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I think I would give Oklahoma State plus 16.5.
Yeah. And if Colorado were to win, then your hopes of making it to the Big 12 title game are dashed right then and there. First game, don't have to worry about it. The rest of the day or weekend. Like I said, you need all 8 of these. Starting with Oklahoma State over Colorado. Game 2 on Friday, Utah at UCF. UCF is a 9.5-point favorite. At home, 7 p.m. Big Fox. Texas Tech would need UCF to hold serve here as the home favorite. Utah's another thing is like, I don't know, man. They've been up and down. UCF's been up. I haven't watched, but maybe a couple minutes of UCF football this year. Watch more Utah than UCF. Emotional here. Give me UCF to win this one. I don't care about the line. UCF to win.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. I don't actually. Does this game even matter? It says we need to win it, but in the little flow chart I have down here, that game's not even on here. Or am I just missing it?
Well, on the graphic underneath this Saturday, December 7th, that's the one on top.
Right. But then the flow chart I put in underneath, which I was just grabbed from the Discord. So who knows the validity of it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't even see that game on there.
You have to walk me through that one.
So it's kind of a family tree. So it follows the team that wins. So if Colorado wins, you look on the right side of the tree. Texas Tech is nowhere to be found over there in the bottom. So the bottom are your matchups, your potential Big 12 matchups. So if Colorado wins, that's still just like you said, it's over. But if Oklahoma State wins and Baylor wins, then there's a path for Texas Tech to make it. If Oklahoma State wins and Kansas wins, there's still a path for Texas Tech to make it. But none of those paths include UCF or Utah, from what I can tell.
Okay. So maybe you're not worried so much about this one on Friday.
Maybe not.
So maybe you don't need all 8 games. Maybe you just need 6. Okay, starting over Saturday morning, Kansas, 1.5 favorites on the road at Baylor, which I think is big, as seeing as how Baylor's kind of had this mid to late season explosion, but so is Kansas. They've shown up and been the bearer of bad news, dashing people's postseason hopes and dreams. Do you absolutely need Baylor to win this one, Michael? Or can Kansas win?
You can go either way.
You can go either way. Okay.
So if Kansas wins, you would need Arizona to win Kansas State to win, and Houston to win. And then you would play Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. If Baylor wins, of course, this all depends on Texas Tech winning. So if Baylor wins and Tech wins, then you would also need Arizona to win, TCU to win, Kansas State to win, and Houston to win. And then Tech would play Baylor in the Big 12 championship. So there's a couple of different ways for this to go, but according to this screenshot that I don't know where it came from.
Okay. I think I'm following along. I'm just looking at this. Okay. I have no idea how this game's going to go. Kansas and Baylor. Kansas has just been resurgent this past few weeks. They are a road favorite over Baylor, who's been pretty good lately. I don't know. It'll be entertaining though. 11 a.m. Same time as you, so maybe it's a game you can keep an eye on while Texas Tech is playing. But ESPN too. Arizona State at Arizona. Arizona State. Wow, they've just come out of nowhere this season. They are 9-2, chasing a 10-win season. At Arizona. Arizona's been down bad. 2:30 p.m. on Fox. I believe.
I think really, all scenarios, Arizona needs to win.
You need Arizona. Yeah. So you need Colorado to win for sure. You need Arizona to win for sure. Texas Tech to win for sure. You need those three. I don't know if I see that one though with how good Arizona State's been. TCU 3.5-point favorites on the road at Cincinnati. 5 p.m. on ESPN Plus. You need. I guess you can go either way.
TCU. Yeah. Well, no, you need TCU to win. I think no matter what.
Okay. You need TCU to win, which isn't that big of a stretch. They're 3.5-point favorites, even though they're on the road. And I could definitely see that happening. Kansas State at Iowa State. Farmageddon, 6:30 p.m. on Big Fox. You need Kansas State.
Yeah, which surprises me because I would assume you would want Iowa State to win because you have the tiebreaker against them. But I think no matter what, you're going to be in second place.
Yeah, for sure.
So you may not want to have the tiebreaker. You don't want to be. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to help you if Iowa State wins.
Yeah, and that would get you to, like I said, play Baylor or Kansas State. Those are your two options. And then Houston at BYU. BYU is a 2-touchdown favorite. 9:15 ESPN Plus. We decided you needed Houston to win this one every time.
Yes, in both scenarios. Yes.
Okay, so you need Oklahoma State to win. You need Arizona to win, Texas Tech to win, and Houston for sure. Those four. You have another route, but the parlay I was able to build if you needed all 8 of these games, which I guess isn't actually true. With a $20 wager, it would pay off almost $36,000.
That's cool. I didn't realize you did that. I missed that note. That's a fun thought experiment to. Well, let's just do it. Let's just put a 8-team parlay on on all of these underdogs, basically.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's do the 4-game one. That one that you actually need. Let's do this one correctly. What do you say?
Okay.
We need NCAA. We're just going to go money line. We just need winners and losses. We need Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
We need. Let me just find the Big 12 games, and we'll go through those. I remember they're all mixed in. Utah, UCF. We decided we didn't need that one.
No, it's not listed here on the scenarios. No.
Kansas, Baylor.
It could go either way.
Okay, we definitely.
There's a path either way.
We need Tech to win. We're just going to leave that one there.
Yep. Need Arizona to win no matter what.
Let me find, like I said, the next Big 12 matchup on the list. Okay, Arizona. TCU or
Kansas
Cincinnati?
State. We need TCU in one of the scenarios, but it doesn't matter in the other.
You said
Kansas
State
or
Iowa
no, that's
State?
right. Kansas State.
All right.
And Houston.
All right. If you were to, on those games, on those, however many those were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a $20 bet would net you $8,301.16. Only having to pick 5 games instead of 8. So there you go.
Yeah.
A little bit better odds for you. The
a little bit.
One of the second to last college football playoff rankings were released, and in that is the bracket projection, which obviously will not mirror the rankings. So those two things are separate. I'm just going to go at the bracket. I don't really care about the rankings. There's too much weirdness about making sure teams can get in, highest ranked, blah blah blah. We're gonna look at the bracket, okay? First round, as of tonight, projection would be 5 seed Ohio State hosting 12 seed Arizona State for the right to play first round bye host Boise State. I think is interesting. 8-9 game. Georgia hosting Tennessee to then move on to face number 1 Oregon. The 6-11 matchup would be Penn State hosting Indiana to face Miami in the second round. And then the 7-10 game, Notre Dame hosting SMU to then go to Austin to face the Longhorns.
My gosh, the world would implode if Notre Dame played Austin. Why do I keep doing this?
They played there a few years ago. That's where we got the famous Texas is back, folks line.
Oh, I know.
They beat
just
Notre Dame.
It's like it'd be like the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series or something.
Oh, like we just saw this year.
Yeah, what?
I think the only one here that has no interest to me would be SMU Notre Dame. I know that SMU is kind of like surging and they've got a great shot to make the playoffs here as a new to the ACC, but also like a new Power Four or return to the Power Four or whatever it was back when they were doing what they were doing. Indiana Penn State, like a Big Ten matchup. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of an SEC matchup, Tennessee Georgia.
Yeah.
But as a fan of one of those schools, I'd be obviously interested in that. I'd like to see if Arizona State makes it through, what they would look like against an Ohio State, who I think is one of those teams as better than their seeding. So you have a very tough matchup there. It's a 5-12, but Ohio State's not the 5th best team. I mean, they're second, maybe third, but interested to see that and then how that would roll on into Boise. Tennessee or Georgia moving on to face Oregon would be entertaining to me. I probably couldn't care less about Indiana or Penn State playing Miami. Notre Dame or SMU playing Texas would hold some interest to me. But I don't know. Is there anything that catches your eye, or is this something you want to see happen?
Yeah, I mean, SMU at Texas would be a great, a very interesting regional matchup that I would actually root for SMU for once, because I don't like them that much. So Georgia and Tennessee could not care less. That's just I don't think I would even watch that one. I would just kind of keep up with it maybe. But obviously I'd watch the Big 12 wherever they land, if they get in there. I know this is still not final yet, and we won't really know till. I guess we won't know till after the championships, so we won't know for another 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good matchups there, a lot of good potential. But I'm with you. No real interest in Miami and or who they're playing. So kind of that section of the bracket is gone. But yeah, the Arizona State, Ohio State, Boise State bracket, the state bracket is good. And then whoever Oregon ends up playing, I'd probably watch that too.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in that the Oregon Boise State side of the bracket than the Texas Miami side.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's do round ball, Michael. Talk some basketball before we wrap this one up. Lady Raiders rolling on 6-0 on this season. Took down New Orleans this past Saturday, 78-70, a little bit closer game. And they've got the Paradise Jam tournament coming up, playing Thanksgiving after evening, Thanksgiving night, 7 p.m., then Friday and Saturday. They'll get Florida State in game 1, Gonzaga game 2, and Missouri State game 3.
Yeah, and they weren't listed on the official Lady Raider schedule, but when you go to the Paradise Jam tournament, it says that all games will be broadcast on ESPN Plus, so we should be able to watch them, not have to sign up to Flowcast or some sketchy stream from a high schooler's camcorder or something. So I think we'll be in good shape there. The one thing to mention about the New Orleans game, I think I wasn't really able to watch it, and I know a lot of you guys are in the same position because it was during the Oklahoma State football game. So the Lady Raiders bounced out to a lead. Not so much in the first quarter, but by halftime they were up 46-33. So I think they kind of naturally let off the gas a little bit. New Orleans actually outscored them in the fourth quarter 22-15 to kind of make it look a little bit closer than it was. But I think the main thing I wanted to point out was Jalen Bristow coming off the bench, 7 of 13 shooting. She played for 25 minutes but had 17 points, 8 rebounds, and including 4 offensive rebounds. So really big game for her off the bench. And Maupin continues to, well, she's kind of struggled a little bit finding her scoring, but had 20 points in this game, including 3 of 7 from 3. So kind of spread the points around a little bit like they have in most of their games, which is great. But this was the first kind of big day for Bristow.
Yeah. And then following that tournament in the Virgin Islands, they come back and host Stephen F. Austin on Tuesday the 4th. So next time we're recording, they will be wrapping up their game. Then they travel to SMU the following Wednesday. That one will be on the ACC Network X. And then Sunday the 15th at Arkansas, 2 p.m. So quite the schedule ahead of them. Texas Tech men's side, 5-1 on this season. Dropped from what would be 26th in the poll to 33rd. After their 2 games up in the Barclays Center for the Legends Classic Tournament, losing game 1 to St. Joseph's 78-77. You had D5 with a potential game-winning shot there that ultimately he missed. The way those final possessions were handled, maybe you were trying to figure out like who's got it on your team. Early in the season in a non-conference matchup on this kind of environment, you can allow those kind of things to play out and not dictate everything by taking a timeout. St. Joseph's was we're taking free throws there. They, I believe, if my memory serves, missed the first free throw. Texas Tech calls a timeout. Then St. Joseph's makes the next free throw. I believe you're out of timeouts at that point. And then you move the ball up court. Not that you had a ton of time, but like you weren't like sprinting up the court and then heaving a shot at the rim. But you weren't also like able to walk up and then run a set or anything. It was one of those in between. Like you had to get the ball up there quickly and then find the best possible shot as soon as you could. The possession before that, you took an early three that I didn't love. And then on the possession back, fouled. You fouled the right person. You know, you fouled their big man and made him shoot free throws. But on the game, JT Toppin led in terms of minutes. He was 8 of 13 from the field, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, had 18 rebounds. So he had a pretty easy double-double there, 22 points, 18 rebounds. D5 was 18 points and 6 rebounds himself, 7 of 19. Nobody was good from three. This was a game you started off cold. You got marginally better in the second half. I think you were 1 of 10 in the first half, 3 of 10 in the second half. And when I think you hit 2 threes kind of close together in the second half, I was like, ooh, don't let us get hot. You didn't get hot. You finished the game 4 of 20, but there was a stretch there where you recovered some possession. Like you were down big at some point to St. Joseph. You were getting close, and you closed the gap very quickly with those couple of threes and a good defense between them. But ultimately on the night, you shot 20%. Chance McMillan, 27 minutes. He had 17 points. He had 3 guys in double figures in the scoring category. Added only 3 rebounds, so all 3 were defensive. 12 of Toppin's 18 rebounds were offensive, which are huge to get you just that many more possessions. Curtin Walton finished with 8 points in 25 minutes, and Elijah Hawkins in 26 minutes added just 4 points and only 3 assists to 2 turnovers. Christian Anderson had 23 minutes and 5 points. I believe he actually played a lot of the time there at the end of the game. And what's interesting is like you would think, well, maybe you saw that flip because Hawkins was in foul trouble. He finished the game with 3 fouls. Anderson had 4. No, sorry. They both had 3 fouls. I was looking at the wrong category. So not like Hawkins had more fouls and they were just like trying to use him sparingly. Federico added 3 points in 7 minutes. Overton had a rough night. No points in 18 minutes. 2 rebounds, 4 fouls, 2 turnovers. Like I've been a big Kevin Overton fan. This was just not his night. Cambridge also had an off night. 9 minutes, no points, 1 rebound.
Yeah, that entire first half, I don't know what the offense was doing or what they were supposed to be doing. It was just let's hope that Toppin gets the rebound and does something with it. I think that was really kind of what it was boiling down to. And boy, did he. I mean, you mentioned it already. 12 offensive rebounds. That's more than St. Joe's had the entire game. St. Joe's had 6 offensive rebounds. And because of that, those second chance opportunities you mentioned, Texas Tech had 18 points on those versus St. Joe's having 3. And to me, the story of the game was just the offense. I thought looked awful in the first half. I really don't know what the offense was. It was a lot of just driving in and then bailing out and passing to somebody who's not really open, and there was no ball movement hardly. It was just a lot of ISO, it seemed like, and it would only really work if it was Toppin or maybe D5. And then Texas Tech was just allowing St. Joe's to do anything they wanted from 3. I know some of it, most of it you can credit St. Joe's for that, but this defense was not rotating. They weren't getting any pressure on these guys. They shot 61% in the first half, 44% in the second. They had one kid, who was it? That Eric Reynolds kid, really, really good player, 6 of 11 from 3.
I think he was like a 25% shooter before the night.
Yeah, I mean, he just could not miss. I mean, this team could not miss the whole game. And, even even on free throws, Texas Tech kept fouling Xavier Brown. Well, he was 13 of 13 from the line. He only had 7 points from the field. The rest of them were from the line. So it just not smart basketball. That was a very frustrating game to watch, offensively and defensively. I did like D5's last shot. I felt like, he was in the lane. It was a really good look. I was perfectly fine with that being the last shot, and it just didn't go in. That's the way basketball go. It's not going to go in every time. And the fact that they didn't settle for some 27-footer that they had to sling up last second. I mean, he drove, he got great position. Just the ball didn't go in, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. It just a frustrating game. Just one of those where so many chances right up to the last second, and still couldn't pull out the win, despite the momentous comeback, being down, what was it, 16, 17?
Yep.
To kind of inch their way back into it. Force St. Joe's to do something other than just rain threes upon you. But man, I can't say enough about JT Toppin. What a player. I hope he's here as long as he wants to be. And just he seems so much taller than he is, just the way that he plays and how he positions himself, and using that left hand. That's still not something you see as much. And so I think these guys are having trouble defending him. But the way he goes after those rebounds and tracks them down, just an all-around joy to watch as a player, honestly.
Yeah. Positive note that you were able to take that, flip the switch, if you will, learn, process that, and move on quickly, because you played 24 hours later. Versus Syracuse was a de facto home game for them. They had a great crowd there for the first game. I'd say it was better in the first game than the second game, but it was not bad second game. Offensively, it seemed like things had turned a little bit for you. You weren't, you weren't facing a team that was like just lights out from three. They finished the night 6 of 21 from three. And 5 of those 6 came in the first half. And you were tied at half, 31 apiece. Whereas you went 4 of 11 in the first half, 4 of 13 in the second half. But it felt like just such a much better 3-point shooting game for you. You made 4 on 4 more attempts than you did the night before. You had some of the same defensive issues, breakdowns, but some of that was you were facing just a decent team. Like you were facing a good team. D5 had another fantastic game. 20 points in 24 minutes. 9 of 14 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. Only had 1 free throw, but nailed it, and added 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. JT Toppin, 15 points, 6 rebounds in 30 minutes, so a little bit reserved from his performance the night before. Chance McMillan had 13 points in 30 minutes, 4 rebounds. Elijah Hawkins, 11 points in 30 minutes. Kevin Overton played a lot of minutes in this game, just like the first game, 34 minutes, but was not kept off the board. Had 8 points and 6 rebounds. Christian Anderson contributed 21 minutes. Kerr Walton, as a starter, only played 5 minutes. I don't know if something happened or just wasn't feeling it or whatever may have happened. He played 5 minutes, missed a shot, had a foul, and a turnover. Cambridge had a few more minutes.
Yeah. We're kind of on a delay this evening, my bad, but I think one of the big stories for me, you mentioned that turnover. That was one of 3 turnovers on the night. And, Texas Tech had 11 the night before. So to mention what you said, offensively, they were able to really, kind of actually find some offense. As great as Toppin is, he did have 5 turnovers the night before. And then he had 0 in 30 minutes of play. So it's been hopefully that was a kind of a wake up moment for him, and I know that that's going to happen off and on throughout the year. But just to get that offense a little bit more structure and something other than what just looked like winging it the whole time, or at least the first half against St. Joe.
Yeah, it didn't end up as favorable as it started off at some point in the game. But you ended the night with 17 assists on 27 made field goals. Defensively, if you look at Syracuse, they had 8 assists to 22 made field goals. They were a lot more ISO, one-on-one, whereas you had pretty good ball movement there. You had 1 free throw in the first half and 20 in the second half. You definitely had a little bit more of an advantage there, obviously. You shot 17 of 21 on the night for just under 81%. You finished 8 of 24 from 3, but 43% from the field. Had a great second half. They 48 points in the second half to your 31 in the first half. So you finish up that little tournament 1-1, right, technically third place in that tournament. To come home, you will play again Friday night versus Northern Colorado, 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Before you get to the Big 12 Big East battle next week, Wednesday, December 4th, and then that next game will be Sunday the 8th versus A&M at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. Looking ahead to Northern Colorado, you are the 36th ranked Haslametrics team versus Northern Colorado 130. So a little bit under what we saw from Syracuse and St. Joseph's. However, Texas Tech is about a 14-point favorite in this matchup. Scoring is going to come down a little bit. You were scoring over 90 points per game. You're now down to 88, giving up 65. Still shooting incredibly well. Again, this is early season. Your numbers are quite inflated, but you're hitting almost 53% of your field goals, allowing teams to shoot 42. That number needs to come down some. 3-point has been coming down. You're just under 40, giving up almost the same, hitting 78% of your free throws, attempting 17 per game. You're out rebounding teams by about 7 per game, and then you're forcing 5 more turnovers than your offense is causing, or your offense is committing. You fell a few spots after the performance in New York. You went from 20 to 36 in Haslametrics. You dropped from 9 to 22 in KenPom. You got the 16th adjusted offense, 40th adjusted defense. That took a big hit. Strength of schedule jumped quite a bit. You went from 355 to 321. BPI moved you from 18 to 20. And T-Rank has you at 20th. Defense kind of fell. Defensive efficiency for them right now is 52nd. Projected 7 seed or so. So, come home. Friday night, you got a good chance against Northern Colorado to continue winning ways to build this up. If I'm not mistaken, you've got a favorable draw here against DePaul. Let me double check. I remember thinking like when this schedule came out, like you had this matchup, but even then it wasn't all that daunting. DePaul is 79th, so they're Big 12 level team. Kansas State is 70th, Colorado 75, Arizona State 78, DePaul 79, West Virginia 81, Oklahoma State 87. So bottom half of the Big 12 type of team in DePaul.
Well, and what a weekend it could be in Dallas. Go see Texas Tech take on Baylor or Kansas State in the Big 12 championship at AT&T Stadium in Arlington on Saturday, and then on Sunday go see them take on the Aggies in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena on 2 p.m.
Yeah,
just a wonderful weekend of Big 12 sports, Texas Tech sports.
Yeah,
in the Metroplex.
Before getting to A&M, though, that DePaul matchup projected 8.5-point win for Texas Tech. So stepping up, and then for Texas A&M a little bit later, This would be neutral. It is currently a 5-point loss to the Aggies. So, because they are 12th in Haslametrics.
Oh, big deal. We were 9th in Ken Palm last week. Whatever.
I'm just pointing out, man. Just pointing them out.
I know.
All right, let's wrap this up, Michael, and get to what did we learn. All right, what'd you learn?
Yeah, I didn't put anything down this week. I learned that, here's what I learned. Friend of the show, Big Hen, put out a tweet this week claiming that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is probably a better holiday movie than all Christmas movies except maybe 2 or 3. And he might be onto something. I've never really sat down and thought about it, but there's not a lot of Christmas movies that I probably like better than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So I have a soft spot for Elf. I don't know why. I do. I think it's hilarious. It tickles me every time. It's so stupid and funny and in all the right ways. So I really like Elf, and I like A Christmas Story. Can't help it. We grew up watching that one. But those I don't know if Christmas Story I might technically like better than Planes and Trains, but I don't know about Elf. I think I might like Planes and Trains better. I'm sure there's other Christmas movies I love that I'm missing, but it was a good thought, Big Hen. I appreciate that.
So I have not seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, so maybe I need to check it out. I probably couldn't even say that I've seen Miracle on 34th Street or some of the older, like one of the classics. Obviously, I've seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Those, and that'll probably be on tap for Friday night in our family. But I don't know if I could tell you like a favorite holiday movie or Christmas movie. Jingle All the Way is an annual favorite. We like to watch that one, but it's not like
Ernest Saves Christmas. Ernest Saves Christmas is up there for me. I watched it last year for the first time, and oh gosh, I don't know how many years, and thoroughly enjoyed myself. So hopefully I can get the family to watch it with me this time.
Maybe have to check that one out.
Oh, Christmas Vacation. Duh. I was like, there's some other one that I always feel the need to watch, and that's Christmas Vacation's up there too.
I have to be in the mood for Chip and Chase. I can't just sit down and enjoy. It's not something like I can sign up for and just be ready to go.
Sure, I get that.
So, anyways, well, you've got a couple of things here in the notes from what do we learn. I'm interested. Like, when do you want to talk about those things, or are those just so far back now? We should just delete.
I thought you wrote them?
I did not put these in here. I thought they were yours.
I didn't put them in there. No. They were there last week, and I was like, oh, I wonder when he's going to talk about these, and you never did, and so I thought, well, I'll leave them.
Because I thought they were yours
for this week. No.
Okay, so there are 2 bullets.
I don't know what this is.
2 bullets on our what do we learn section here. Mambo number 5 and How to Daggy. No idea where they came from.
Spencer.
That or like we were like I was in there and somehow had like speak to text turned on when my phone was unlocked, and it just picked up pieces of conversation. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you like
you just skipped over what we learned last week, and I was really disappointed. I thought, man, I guess he thought the episode was too long. I wanted to see what he meant by Mambo number 5 and what he meant by How to Daggy and crickets. And so then I left it in there just with anticipation. Just, oh man, okay, he's gonna.
That's funny because I left
lay it on me this week,
thinking they were yours. Wow. No, I did not.
I got nothing there.
Enter those into the notes intentionally, but I'm glad I asked you about them. This is funny.
I know we should go back through the notes and see how they got there.
Yeah, like the turn on tracking or whatever, see when they get entered in and
Yeah.
who did it. Probably
If
me.
it
I
could
don't
have been.
know.
I don't think it was. I think it was you because I don't think it was me. I don't think because I go down YouTube rabbit holes and stuff, and it would not be above me to all of a sudden be like, you know what, I need to listen to some Lou Bega today, and let me just search Mambo number 5, and I'm typing in a window, and I'm like, why isn't it showing up? And then I'm not in the YouTube window. That was weird. So I could totally see something like that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think I did that.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for us here on the 23 Personnel Podcast. Thanks for hanging with us this week. A little out of the norm with the schedule being on the road, not having a stream. I will try to post the video of this thing. Obviously, if you're watching, I was able to get that done. Otherwise, the audio will be out as it always is. I am traveling back on Saturday, so I don't know how that's going to go. How much of the game I'll be able to watch live or on the road or listen to. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll have an instant reaction Saturday night for you, as we always do, with a varying level of how much I was able to watch the game live. But we'll be here as we always are. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.